I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, February the 28th. And you can't bulldog in tennis shoes. Most of you guys know that. A lot of you guys that watch this, I'm sure, like me, enjoyed the American rodeo on Sunday and enjoyed watching all that. You didn't see any of the bulldoggers wearing tennis shoes because they don't have heels on them, and it's hard to dig in. It's hard to stop one of those steers when you come off running pretty good so you can get him turned over. And that's kind of what we're looking at with this feedlot trade. Here for the second week, we've seen people start puking cattle $2 lower when we've got pretty strong indicators that we could hold steady. We're still in relatively tight market-ready supplies right now, yet you've got some guys that are coming in there puking cattle early in the week when they don't need to, and then everybody else is stuck holding the same bag. But you know, I remember back in the days, you know, a feedlot, you went in the front, and there was always a real nice gal in there burning up a tin key adding machine, and the paper was out in the middle of the floor. The guy that ran the joint was in the back office. He wore boots. He scraped them when he come off. He oversaw everything. He was hard to trade with, and he drove a hard bargain, whether he was on the buying end or the selling end. You had cowboys that come in who usually didn't scrape their boots off, and they'd come in, get a cup of coffee or Coke or something, and stomp around in there and try to kill a few hours during the day. But it's different than that now. You go into the offices, there's usually a cinder block building out in front of the feedlot. A lot of times there's nobody in it. There might be a office sitting there with a laptop on it. Nobody ever goes inside. The guys are sitting in the biggest local town somewhere in an office building or driving around in a new pickup. They just aren't hard to trade with. They don't dig in, and they don't fight for their market position like they did back in the day. And just think if the Packers did that. What if one individual Packer decided to start the week out giving $2 or $3 more when there was no sign that they needed to? Then all of his buddies, I mean competitors, would have to follow suit and give more. They never do that. They get right together. Is it a coincidence that usually the bulk of the trade happens within about an hour and a half? You think they're not working together? Give me a break. But look at the board. On Tuesday, April live cattle up a quarter to end the day at 124 1/4. February spot live cattle up 62. They tooketh away and then they giveth right back on Tuesday, still hanging right around that 28, because that's where the 128, that's what it should be. But then we got people puking them at 126 early in the week. Doesn't make any sense. April feeder cattle up $1 1/4 to end the day at 149.20. March was up $1 even at 146.55. But I'm talking about this fat cattle trade. It was only 3,300, but that's quite a few. 3,300. That's a lot of cattle traded, mostly in Kansas. You can't blame the Iowa farmer feeder for this that doesn't know what's going on. They know what's going on better. Mostly in Kansas. You had guys selling cattle on a Monday at 126. If anybody can tell you what happened, your cattle on feed report has zero to do with the current fat cattle trade or the show list or the market ready supplies that are coming within the next few weeks. You guys giving away this market position, and you think it's not a basis trade. They lost ground on the basis too. You think that these guys, the Packers, are going to be nice whenever it comes here in about a month, whenever we start seeing some big time numbers rolling down the pike, and these show lists start to swell, and there's more cattle for sale than what they really need. It's not going to be the $2. It's going to be like a little Bill said in Unforgiven, that great Western. He said it's not going to be gentle like before. It's going to be, they're going to put their foot on your head and put it underwater and stand there and think about it a while. Box beef cutout values continue to soar. Choice cutouts gained another dollar on Tuesday to end the day at 220.52, all the way up to 220.5 on choice cutouts. Selects 214.79, up 7 cents. Slaughter's been pretty aggressive so far this week. Of course, can't hardly compare it to last week, because last week was very disappointing. You look at your feeder cattle markets, your real-time index on Beef Market Central, based on the 800-pound steer up through the middle 12 states, 147.15 late in the day on Tuesday, down just 4 cents, so actually holding up pretty good and gaining another pound up to 797 pounds. So very close to that 800 pounds, and we're not seeing quite as many of those big calves coming in, and we're just really running out of feeding type cattle, and the market's kind of bad on them this week. But if you look at the board and you look at out front sales, this market on these feeding type cattle is going to get progressively better as we work into the summer months, like it always does, because there's not very many of them out there. Look at some markets there. El Reno, Oklahoma, 1,250 head, just barely dirtied the ring up there, but it's so muddy around and boggy and hard to get cattle moving, so they had a very light run. They sold their calves $3 to $5 higher, but did note that those peewee calves weighing under 5, under 4.5 especially, are sharply higher undertone, just not a good test of them. And that's what everybody is really gone to just here lately, and then especially this week, is some peewee calves. Looking to get some of those and get them kind of started, and then turn those out when the grass gets green. But we sure like to have some of those good old hard tough stockers too, but they are so hard to come by. You usually have to ship those in from the southeast or somewhere. Phillips, South Dakota had a good sale, around 4,000 head. Look at the automated market report. It was lower than the bulk of your sales last week, but awful good prices there. You look at actually I haven't had a sale for 2 or 3 weeks. That's how come it was so much lower, but it was some lower. But look at your popular weights there, still pretty lofty. 288 head of 6-weight steers, average 635 at 167.16. 320 head of steers in the 7-weight category, average 741 at 157.08. Look at some more sales on Tuesday. West Plains, Missouri, at the Ozarks Regional Stockyard, 3,100 head there. Their steer calves weighing under 5 were $6 to $8 higher. I tell you guys, they're just looking for these peewee munchers now. Heifer calves steady to $5 higher. Yearlings not well tested. You remember how dry we've been talking about it. It's been all winter long. They're your wheat country. They've had to pull those cattle off of there. Now all this moisture that they're getting, of course we're not getting any of it in the Texas Panhandle or anywhere like that, but Oklahoma and over east like that, getting a lot of moisture. But already at El Reno, at OKC West, look at this individual quote, 64 head of 504-pound steers, bring a $1.95. Wow, this moisture could bring on some graze out wheat. The problem is, by the time it dries out enough to turn cattle out again, it's getting pretty late. Right now is when we normally on wheat pasture start getting our big gains, whenever things settle down and we start getting some warmer days, and those cattle really do it all this time of year. Problem is, if you've turned anything out on your wheat at all, it's so short that they just can't get anything. You look at another individual quote on some bigger cattle, Imperial Auction Market, Imperial, Nebraska. They can sell them up there. 149 head of steers, weighed 831 at 149.75. That's your feeder flash for Wednesday.